My next guest is both a legend in the music business and a virtual renaissance man, Grammy winning producer, musician, filmmaker, radio host, and current president of the iconic jazz label Blue Note Records. Don Was has produced records for everyone from Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones to Bonnie Raitt, John Mayer, Willie Nelson, Iggy Pop, and the B-52s. In many cases, on award winning and often breakthrough albums. He's performing with his band, Don Was and the Pan Detroit Ensemble on February 14th as part of the Fort Mose Jazz and Blues series in St. Augustine. And we are thrilled to be able to talk to him today. Don Was, thanks for being here. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Hey, thank you so much, Ann. It's really good to see you.
Can you start by explaining how you approach the job of a producer? Where do you begin? And how does the strategy change from artist to artist?
Well, it's a really good question. I guess you could say the goal of being a record producer, or same thing as being a musician, a performer, even a record company president. The goal is to somehow create some music that's going to get under people's skin, make them feel something, make them help them understand their lives a little bit, help them make sense out of confusing and chaotic times. That's the goal. So, with each record you make or whatever decision you make, you kind of keep that in mind, and you do whatever's necessary to make that happen.
Practically speaking, when you're starting this work with an artist, are you sitting down with them and talking about their vision? Are you listening to demos? Like, what are you actually doing when you're trying to come up with an approach to like the sound of an album?
It's a little bit of both, and that's exactly right. You sit there and try to understand what their vision is, what they're hearing in their head. Just even getting references, a sonic mood board. Play some records that you think sound great or sound close to what you're aiming for, and at the same time, it's all about songs. If you don't have good songs, you can't make a good record. Doesn't matter how clever your arrangements are, or innovative or radical. Without good songs, you got nothing. So hopefully there's time to go through the process of listening to many demos of songs, or even just sitting there with a guitar or at a piano and playing the songs together and seeing which ones jump out.
And so what happens if you, as a listener and as a producer and somebody with a ton of experience, isn't necessarily in agreement with the artist? Does that happen sometimes where they're sort of approaching it with a vision that you think maybe isn't as effective or won't work? And if so, how do you communicate that?
Well, if there's really a wide chasm, just don't do the record. Someone else should work on it. You're not the right you're not the right person. Sometimes I think that I understand exactly what they're talking about. I don't disagree with what they're talking about. I just don't know how to help them get there. Somebody else should do it. That's perfectly okay, and much better to be honest about it at the beginning than to get mired in deep and get to the point where everyone's bleeding over the music. Which, if you don't get to that point, you're not really doing your due diligence on it. But you certainly don't want to get there and feel that you're the wrong person for the gig. So you kind of learn.
We mentioned that you're president of Blue Note, which is obviously a legacy label. And I'm curious what your musicianship and your work as a producer has brought to that role. Like, how does it influence how you run that company?
On a very practical level, when an artist is trying to turn their inner emotional lives into notes, it's a process that requires some understanding on the part of everybody who's working with that artist. And if you don't understand what they're going through, for example, last week, I was asked to call up one of our artists during a session and talk about the deadlines for the album and when they have to submit the credits. And you just don't do that. You're not going to get the desired result, and you're going to disrupt the session. You can't start assaulting an artist with left brain stuff in the middle of right brain stuff. So that's one very practical example.
Is that a lesson? Is that something you learned because it was done to you? Is that you learned?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still done to me. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're in a different mindset, and you want the artist to be there. I also think that's one of the producer's jobs too, is to kind of run defense for an artist. I liken it to Ben Franklin flying the kite. You know, the artist is the kite way up there in a rainstorm, hoping it gets hit by lightning, this creative lightning that makes something extra special happen. You get beyond the point where craft controls the thing and you get this true flash of inspiration. So the artist is the kite, the producer's holding the string and standing on the ground and making sure it doesn't go flying off, you know, to the far reaches of the universe. So that's a metaphor.
Grounding, a grounding effect.
Yeah, grounding. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I've heard you say that sometimes the best thing that you can do for an artist is to create some space for them or around them to do what they do. And I want to play a song of Bonnie Raitt's. You had produced her 1989 album, Nick of Time. And that was an enormous commercial breakthrough. It won 3 Grammys, including Album of the Year that year. And the song that I'm going to play is actually off of her next album, Luck of the Draw. You co-produced it with her. So can you tell us, I understand that was maybe a one-take version of that song.
Oh, yeah. You know, my first I got kind of choked up while you were playing that. And my first reaction to hearing it was something I think I experienced 30-some years ago when we did it, but I forgot about it, which was I wanted to find the guy who made Bonnie, who I love so much, feel that bad. I'm going to find that mother and take care of him, because I felt defensive for Bonnie, you know. What a wild reaction to have to that. It was one take, and it was, first of all, it's the kind of song you get once or twice in a lifetime, I think, where someone sends you a song that's that powerful. It's just a beautifully written song. It was co-written by a guy named Mike Reed, who used to play defensive back for the Cincinnati Bengals. Maybe the most unlikely job description for someone who could write such a sensitive song. But he also has a master's in English lit, brilliant writer. Alan Shamblin is his co-writer, who's a great songwriter. And they sent that to Bonnie, and we just knew it's just a gift, you know, that it was just a song that dug so deep. We used to do demos, as you were discussing, as you brought up earlier, you know. We'd make little demos of just Bonnie either playing the piano or playing guitar and singing with the sense that if we couldn't get to the essence of the song with just her like that, it didn't matter what we did later with the band. If we couldn't make a proper intimate demo, we didn't do the song. This one required her to Stanislavski the session, right? She was going to go deep into her own personal history to inhabit the character that's singing in the song. And she wanted to go one time. She didn't want to dwell on it. We didn't make the demo. It was just going to be in the studio. She was going to go there and capture some truth. And then she didn't want to ever go there again. So we did get it in one take. The only fixing we had to do was where she started crying in the second verse. And we punched those lines in. And I knew it was magical when we did it. And of course, it became a very, very big record. And she's got to go out and go to that place every night in concert.
Yeah.
Irony.
What you saved her in the studio, you can't spare her on the stage, I guess.
No. Yeah.
So finding those moments is not unique to that artist. I understand that you've had similar experiences in terms of creating a one take hit
Yeah.
with Willie Nelson
Hmm.
in Across the Borderline. You've worked
Yeah.
with
Very
John
good.
Mayer and also done kind of a phenomenal, very well known take on Last Train Home.
Mm.
How nerve wracking is it? Do you know that it's going to be one take? And how do you know that it's going to work out, that somebody's not going to mess up or hit a wrong note or?
Well, you never know. That's the fun of it, man. It's really making records is adventure. It's high adventure because, well, be, because craft can get you to a certain level. Anybody can make a good record. It's not that hard to make a good record, but to do something that's truly great, that truly, like we said before, gets under people's skin, it requires a little external help that you can't create. You can't really identify. We don't really know where the true inspiration comes from. One time I asked Bob Dylan, I said, how come you can write Gates of Eden and I can't? And he said, well, look, if it's any consolation to you, I didn't really write it. I remember sitting there moving the pencil over the paper, but I don't know where that song came from.
Wow.
And at the time, I thought he was just being nice to me. Like I appreciated the fact that he didn't say, because I'm way better than you. But then other people started saying the same thing. People that I really respected, Brian Wilson and Keith Richards. If he has an idea in the studio, he doesn't say, "Hold it, wait, I got an idea." He said, "Hold it, incoming." And I started to see. I don't know. Nobody knows what it is, but this thing, you have to be visited by this kind of force, and that's where the great stuff comes from. So you can't really control that. As a result, you don't really know if the first take is going to be any good or not. But here's what I can tell you about the first take. It's usually it's usually done without too much self consciousness and worry. You're just trying to see if you can get through the song, and that's some magic will happen. The more you think, the more it sets you back. And that's why after about six, if we don't get it in six, we put it away and come back another day.
So in terms of the work that you put on a song as it exists, I want to play a little bit of a B-52s song. This
Mm.
was some magic that happened in the recording booth, but also, that you had a big part in kind of helping to shape. This is a
Mm.
1989 hit also. It's Love Shack. It's off of their album Cosmic Thing. Let's take a listen. Tell us how that happened. First of all, that song, and then kind of that moment that's so well known.
Good. I'm glad you picked that moment. It's quite a moment. Um, we were recording songs for the album, and we finished a day early, but we were still set up in this great studio in Woodstock, New York, Dreamland. And they said, well, we have this one other thing, but the way the B-52s write songs is they'll jam on some chords for half an hour and just free associate. Anything that comes to mind, they start singing. And then they play it back, and they take the good lines and they write them on a yellow legal pad. So they handed me like a string, a long flowing sea of yellow legal pad paper all taped together. It had been hung from the ceiling to the floor, and about 10 minutes of them jamming on the Love Shack groove. And they said, see if you can make sense out of this. So it was cool. It didn't take long, to see that, well, this bit about the Love Shack, maybe that's the hook of the song. So I just rearranged it and put it in some form. And we went in and we cut it. And it was a first take, and it had all this great energy. And when we got to that line, your tin roof rusted, for reasons unknown, Cindy Wilson, one of the singer who does the line, she started out, when you just play, you can hear she's very exuberant on your tin roof. And then by the time she got to the word rusted, she teared up. So like a complete mood swing,
Hmm.
180 degrees in a second or whatever. And it made the delivery of the line, which is already a peculiar line. God knows what that means. Your tin or why that's the emotional linchpin of the song. But it is, and she delivered it with such force that it threw the band off. Everyone, so your tin roof rusted, boom, love shack. So everybody came in wrong, but it was great up till there. And this was before all the Pro Tools and all of that. So we did another 30 takes, but every take got further. We got the tin roof rusted part right, but it it got further from the exuberance and the joy that was in that first take. And then we finally figured out after a while that we could just go back and hit record after Tin Roof Rusted, and come back in and finish the song. So that's what we did. So that's another first take. And it's just one of the most enigmatic things I ever experienced in the studio, but clearly registered with people on a line that's basically a non sequitur.
And a song
I
that,
can't.
I mean, it wasn't like the first song off it wasn't like the single, right? That it was,
No, no, nobody heard that as a single. It was like the fourth single, and it only happened because a DJ in Chicago started playing it. And the way you measured success then, now they see how many likes you have on Instagram. But it was whether the phones lit up. If people called to say, "What is that? Will you play it again?" And the phones started lighting up. So they added the record, and other radio stations followed suit. And then, and only then, did the record company realize, this appears to be the path of least resistance to having a hit. And so they kicked in, and it was big.
so just a little bit about your own musical history. I mean, you were in the band Was Not Was. It had
Yeah.
in the early 80s, you had a huge hit in 88 off of your album What Up Dog. It
Yeah.
was called Walk the Dinosaur, and people may well remember that. It was a chart topping song. You had some kind of misdirection perhaps after that. I mean, your band had its own sound.
Yeah.
It was very unique and really eclectic, but
Yeah.
having that kind of success was impactful and not necessarily in like ways that you anticipated or maybe were comfortable with. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of your own personal evolution there?
Well, what happens is when you have an actual hit record, people who your benefactors at the record company like it, like success. So they want you to do it again. And that just happened to be a song that it was atypical of what we were really about. Everything about it, sonically and the whole thing. We liked it, but I didn't know how to do it again. I don't know how we did the first one. So we we were directed to chase that song, and whatever, walk the alligator, or, just do it again, and we couldn't do it again, and so that was a problem, and then we lost confidence, and we started listening to outside advice, which someone said to us, if you just do a cover of "Listen Like Thieves," the In Excess song, with a bunch of synthesizers, and we're like a live soul band that plays real instruments. So we had to get someone who wasn't in our band to do the track, and then just put our singers on the In Excess song, and we sort of handed it in and said, "Is this what you want? Is this it?" We lost all sense of who we were
Right.
because they were trying to make us something else. This is another instance where I think my experience as an artist and as a producer have helped me at Blue Note, because the biggest mistake record companies make is they sign somebody that they love and believe in, and then try to turn them into whatever is popular in that moment to sell records. And what you have to realize is that the thing that makes you different from everything else that's out there is not a marketing problem. That's the artist's superpower. You're supposed to exaggerate and stress the thing that makes them different from everybody else. And if you think about the artists who built 40, 50, 60-year careers, you realize that when they came, who was like Neil Young when Neil Young came out? Who was like Bob Dylan when Bob Dylan started? Who was like Prince? Nobody. That's why we love them today. That's the music that lasts. But if you're only trying to be, 6 weeks ahead of your time, you got a you got a problem. So that we kind of lost the mission. Um, and we really had to take a little break because none of us liked what we were doing anymore. We couldn't figure out who we were.
So you have, in addition to producing, you have played with people that I think you probably saw when you were growing up, including Bob Dylan and the Rolling Stones. You've performed
Yeah,
alongside them. More recently, you've been had performed with Bob Weir and in a band called the Wolf Brothers.
yeah.
And so you've really, run the gamut in terms of superstars that you've played alongside. Now you are in a band that's performing here locally. This is Don Was and the Pan Detroit Ensemble. Can you tell us a little bit about how that band came together, what its sound is? This is the band that you're going to be performing with here locally.
Right. Well, going back to what we were just talking about the thing that makes you different being your superpower, right? Terrence Blanchard, great jazz trumpeter, composer, uh, film scorer, he was curating a series of Detroit jazz for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and he wondered if I wanted to do one of the nights in the series, and I would be thrilled to do that, of course, but I didn't have a band together, so I had to try to think of what I was going to do at this stage of my life, and I thought, well, just don't try to be like everybody else. To do what makes you different. And I remember an experience I had being in the studio with Willie Nelson, where I was lamenting the fact that I could never be Willie Nelson and just admiring how great he was. And then the converse of that occurred to me, where I thought, well, but Willie Nelson can't be you. He didn't hang out and see the MC5 and the Stooges playing at the Grandy Ballroom. George Clinton didn't come and play a sock hop at his junior high school. So be all the things that you actually are that Willie Nelson can't be that and take your shot. I won't be as good as him, but at least there'll be a thing there, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, I'm going to go back to Detroit, hook up with musicians who grew up listening to the same radio stations and playing in the same bars and playing for the same audiences and have this kind of shared musical language. So I got 9 people that I knew together in a room just for a rehearsal. And some of them I'd played with for 45 years. 2 of them, we go back that far. Others, I'd played with everybody in the band, but we all hadn't played together ever. And it clicked. And within 10 minutes, I knew that there was a musical rapport that was highly unusual for a first rehearsal. That we all clicked. We all spoke the same language. So we turned that into a tour, and we've been moving ever since, playing shows, and just made a record last fall. And there's definitely a thing. It's a band. We're getting a lot of offers now to do shows. And if one of the members of the band is a 9-piece band, so that's a lot of people. They're all busy. If one of them can't do it, we just don't do the dates because they've all become an essential component of what's happening here. But it's all based around a certain Detroit approach to rhythm, approach to rawness, and just straightforward music. I like to think that we're connected to a musical legacy that starts with someone like John Lee Hooker and includes Elvin Jones and the MC5 and George Clinton and Fortune Records and the White Stripes and just go. There's an ethos to Detroit music that very much resembles the character of the population of Detroit, really.
Wow. As you mentioned, this is a 9-member band and just some real, superstars on it. This is a song I'd like to play by the band, and it's a song that people who've heard the Hank Williams version may not even recognize it, so reimagined. But this is called I Ain't Got Nothing But Time. Let's take a listen. Stephanie Christian.
Yeah, Stephanie Christian. She's a killer, man. She's really one of the best singers I ever worked with, and I love seeing people responding to her from the stage every night.
Well, it's such a good sound, and I know that people are thrilled to be able to see you here in town. It's a performance by Don Was and the Pan Detroit Ensemble. They're going to perform Saturday, February 14th, part of the Fort Mose Jazz and Blues Series in St. Augustine. Don Was, we're so looking forward to having you in town. Thanks so much for doing this today.
Thank you so much, Ann. It's really a gas to speak with you, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a good rest of the tour till we see you.
Okay, thank you.